Good evening. I'm Aaron Camp, a progressive political blogger from Westville, Illinois. I speak to the American people tonight to give the progressive response to the 2015 State of the Union address, the sixth official State of the Union address delivered by President Barack Obama. The state of our union is not as strong as many within my own Democratic Party want you to believe. Income inequality is rampant, the justice system is badly broken, democracy is being destroyed by, among other forces, right-wing judges, special interests, political bosses, and wealthy campaign donors, and the so-called economic recovery in this country is being felt almost exclusively by the wealthiest people in this country, while wages in this country have not kept up with the productivity of the American workforce. Perhaps the single biggest issue facing our country today is the rampant income inequality between the wealthiest people in this country and everyone else. However, income inequality has not always been as significant of a problem in this country. In the 1950s, when Republican Dwight D. Eisenhower was in the White House, the income tax rate on the wealthiest Americans was over 90%, and there was a vibrant middle class in this country built on good-paying jobs. 3 decades later, the rise of another Republican president, Ronald Reagan, and his brand of trickle-down economics brought tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans, which led to the wealthiest Americans getting wealthier, while the poor, working class, and middle class saw no significant benefits from Reagan's trickle-down policies. Since then, income inequality has become such a serious problem in this country today. 40% of the country's wealth is held by the wealthiest 1% of the country's population. While there will always be people who are wealthier than others, the current level of income inequality is, to put it mildly, unsustainable. Income inequality is the single biggest reason why the so-called economic recovery in this country is not being felt by poor, working class, and middle class Americans, why our country has a federal budget deficit, and why our country's national debt is ridiculously large. America deserves a rejuvenated middle class, not rampant income inequality. Another issue facing our country today is the out-of-control big spending in electoral politics that is destroying our country's democracy thanks to recent court decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court, which is controlled by Republican appointees. Nowadays, most politicians in this country spend far more time serving special interests, political bosses, and ultra-wealthy campaign donors than serving the American people. Even worse, wealthy people can now secretly donate money to political action committees and other types of political organizations, which in turn run negative attack ads on television and other mediums smearing candidates for public office. This broken, unsustainable campaign finance system discourages people from running for public office, has led to various special interest and wealthy individuals gaining undue political influence, and has made a complete mockery of the political process in this country. America deserves a political system where politicians represent the people, not a political system where politicians represent their big money cronies. While these two issues are, in my opinion, the two most important issues facing our country today, there are many other important issues facing our country today. One issue that has been brought to national attention in recent months is the institutional racism in the police and criminal justice system in this country. The shooting deaths of Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Dontre Hamilton, and other black males at the hands of white police officers who literally got away with murder have exposed the institutional racism within the law enforcement community and the criminal justice system. America deserves a criminal justice system that values the lives of all Americans, not just the lives of those who are in positions of power. The state of our education in this country is not good at all. No Child Left Behind, Common Core state standards, charter schools, school vouchers, high-stakes standardized testing, and other corporate education policies have destroyed K-12 education in this country and left our children behind. The state of higher education in this country is no better. While the salaries of college administrators and college athletic coaches are ridiculously high, adjunct professors at many colleges and universities in this country are living in poverty. Additionally, college students and graduates are carrying a massive amount of student loan debt as a result of the broken system of paying for college in this country. While President Obama has proposed making 2 years of community college free for many Americans, far more needs to be done to make our country's education system stronger and more affordable. Our nation's sovereignty is under attack, not from foreign forces, but from forces within our own Congress and the White House. Republicans and corporate Democrats on Capitol Hill are fighting to fast-track a proposal by a Canadian oil pipeline company to run a pipeline that would carry tar sands oil from the Canadian province of Alberta to the Texas Gulf Coast in order for it to be shipped to other foreign countries like China. If this pipeline, known as Keystone XL, were to be approved and built, it would leave the United States at the mercy of a Canadian corporation, which would further erode our nation's sovereignty. Even worse, when it comes to eroding American sovereignty, are free trade agreements with foreign nations, which are supported by Republicans and corporate Democrats, including the president. These free trade agreements do nothing more than drive up our nation's trade deficit with foreign nations and result in the loss of American jobs to foreign nations. For much of our nation's history, tariffs and other trade protections made our country great by protecting the American manufacturing industry and middle-class jobs either directly or indirectly associated with manufacturing. Nowadays, the decades-long rush to eliminate tariffs and trade protections has resulted in wages in this country not being able to keep up with productivity, American jobs being shipped to foreign countries like China and Mexico, and rampant income inequality. The rights of the American people are under attack. The U.S. Supreme Court has rendered decisions, and many state governments have enacted legislation that have made it harder for women to make their own decisions regarding their reproductive health, including obtaining contraception and terminating a pregnancy. Additionally, laws allowing federal government agencies to spy on the American people without obtaining a search warrant are still on the books. Furthermore, the right of workers to collectively bargain for higher wages, more benefits, and safer working conditions is under attack in numerous states by Republican politicians who want non-union workers to benefit from union contracts without having to pay for the benefits of union contracts in the form of union dues. Worst of all, in my opinion, the right to vote is under attack by politicians gerrymandering congressional, state legislative, and other types of districts to their benefit, and Republicans who want to prevent ethnic minorities, women, college students, elderly people, and others who don't benefit from and or don't support their far-right political agenda. The corporate welfare state in this country is another problem our country faces. At both the federal, state, and local levels in this country, corporations and other types of businesses are receiving tons of money from American taxpayers, usually, but not always, in the form of tax breaks. In most cases, businesses who receive tax breaks and other forms of government benefits don't have to pay back any money to the government, and they're usually allowed to pay workers low wages and offer workers few benefits. The worst examples of corporate welfare in this country, in my opinion, are major sports leagues like the National Football League and the National Hockey League. Despite the fact that both of these sports leagues make millions of dollars from selling television rights to games they sanction and other sources, as well as give their executives extremely large salaries, they're legally considered non-profit entities, which I think is wrong. To address these problems and many other problems our country faces, I propose a wide array of ideas to make America a better and more progressive place to live. I propose raising taxes on the wealthiest Americans, eliminating income taxes on the poorest Americans, taxing corporate income, capital gains, and dividends at the same rate as individual income, eliminating the cap on how much income can be subject to taxes used to pay for Social Security, protecting and expanding Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other social safety net programs, raising the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour and indexing annual minimum wage increases to productivity, eliminating all tax breaks for businesses, creating federal, state, and local economic development banks to issue and/or guarantee loans to businesses that they are legally required to repay, implementing a steel interstate passenger rail system across the contiguous United States, repairing and replacing structurally deficient and functionally obsolete bridges, protecting and expanding workers' rights, repealing so-called right-to-work laws that allow non-union workers to benefit from union contracts, protecting and expanding regulations that protect consumers, the environment, and the public, protecting and expanding antitrust laws, reinstating the Glass-Steagall ban on commercial banks offering investment banking and insurance services, amending the United States Constitution in order to explicitly allow federal and state governments to enact campaign finance limits and regulations, strengthening campaign finance disclosure requirements, creating a public campaign finance system, enacting truly nonpartisan redistricting commissions in every state that currently does not have one, repealing voter ID laws and other laws that restrict the right of the American citizens to vote, enacting laws to prohibit government agencies from spying on the American people without a search warrant, repealing all free trade agreements that the United States is a party to, repealing the Hyde Amendment in order to allow more women to be able to afford abortions, repealing other restrictions on obtaining abortions, contraception, and other reproductive health procedures, enacting a federal constitutional amendment to allow same-sex couples to get married regardless of which state they live in, prohibiting all forms of discrimination, requiring that deaths that occur in the custody of law enforcement be subject to independent investigations, requiring background checks on all gun sales, repealing school voucher programs where they exist, enacting moratoriums on the opening of new charter schools that are not run by local school authorities, enacting K-12 education standards that are developmentally appropriate for each grade level and are enforced by curriculum-based accountability standards instead of assessments and high-stakes standardized testing, and rejecting the Keystone XL pipeline. The state of our union can be made much stronger in the future if progressives actively push for bold ideas to restore the American middle class, protect the rights of the American people, and make America a better place to live in a more perfect union. Good night and solidarity.